For almost 2,000 years, these books were not lost, they were trapped. A black burned cylinder sits under laboratory lights, no larger than something you might pull from a dead fireplace. It looks lifeless, brittle, finished. The kind of object history normally throws away. But inside that piece of carbon, there are letters no human eye has seen since Mount Vesuvius buried an entire Roman town under heat, ash, and silence. And now, for the first time, machines are seeing through the burn. Not cutting it open, not peeling it apart, not touching the fragile layers that could crumble into dust. They are reading the darkness itself. That is the part that changes everything. Because the story of the Herculaneum scrolls is not just the story of ancient books destroyed by a volcano. It is the story of a library that may have survived by becoming almost impossible to read. Vesuvius did not simply erase it, Vesuvius sealed it. And if this sealed library is finally beginning to speak, then the real question is not what did the ancient world lose? The real question is how much of it has been waiting right in front of us. The official version was simple for a very long time. In the year 79 of the Common Era, Mount Vesuvius erupted. Pompeii was buried. Herculaneum was swallowed. People died where they stood, where they hid, where they ran, where they waited for a rescue that never came. A Roman villa near the Bay of Naples was covered by volcanic material, and inside that villa was a private library filled with papyrus scrolls. The heat did what heat does. It burned them. But here is the strange part. It did not burn them away. The same catastrophe that destroyed the town also carbonized the scrolls so quickly and so completely that they survived as blackened, rolled cylinders. They were no longer readable books. They looked like charcoal. But inside them, layer after layer, the ancient writing was still there. A library had become a locked tomb. When the Villa of the Papyri was discovered in the 18th century, the people digging through the buried rooms found hundreds of these black scrolls. At first, some of them did not even look like manuscripts. They looked like scraps of burned wood. Imagine that for a moment. A worker holding one of the only surviving libraries from the ancient world and not knowing whether he is holding a book or a piece of trash. That is how close this story came to disappearing twice. Once under Vesuvius, and once in the hands of the people who found it. The Villa of the Papyri was not an ordinary house. It was a luxury estate filled with art, sculpture, wealth, and learning. Some scholars have linked it cautiously to the world of the Roman elite, possibly even to the family circle of Julius Caesar through his father-in-law. That connection is not a locked fact carved into stone, but the villa itself tells us enough. This was a place where power and books lived in the same rooms. And that matters, because this was not just a random stack of old scrolls. It was a curated library, a collection chosen by people with money, education, status, and access. A private intellectual world buried under a volcanic grave. The easy version of history says we already know the ancient world. We have the ruins, we have the statues, we have the names. Rome, Greece, Caesar, Plato, Aristotle, Epicurus. We walk through museums and feel as if the past has been organized for us behind glass. But the truth is much darker. Most ancient writing is gone. Not damaged, gone. Entire books vanished. Whole authors survived only as names. Some works are known because another writer mentioned them in passing. Some ideas reached us only through enemies, summaries, quotations, and fragments. What we call classical history is not a complete library. It is a burned shelf with a few pages still readable. And beneath Vesuvius, one of the missing shelves may still exist. That is why these scrolls feel different. They are not just artifacts. They are evidence that the silence of the ancient world may not be final. But for centuries, the problem was brutal. If you tried to open one of the scrolls, it could fall apart. The papyrus had been carbonized. The layers were crushed, warped, stuck together, and fragile beyond belief. Early attempts to unroll them physically sometimes revealed text, but they also damaged what they were trying to save. Every movement was a bargain with destruction. Read a little, lose a little, touch the past, break the past. That is the nightmare at the center of this story. A library is found, but the very act of reading it becomes dangerous. The books are there, but they punish curiosity. They are not hidden behind a locked door. they are hidden inside themselves. And then came the modern turn that sounds almost like science fiction, except it is real. Instead of opening the scrolls by hand, researchers began scanning them. Powerful X-rays could map the inside of the burned rolls. Computers could trace the papyrus layers inside the black cylinder. The scroll could be virtually unfolded, not on a table, but inside a machine. But even that was not enough, because the ink was carbon-based and the papyrus was carbonized. Carbon on carbon, black writing on a black corpse. To a normal scan, the letters were almost invisible. The machine could see structure, layers, cracks, folds, damage, but finding the ink was like looking for a shadow inside a shadow. This is where artificial intelligence entered the story, not as a magic oracle, as a patient hunter of traces. The idea was terrifyingly precise. If the ink itself was hard to separate by chemistry, maybe it had changed the surface of the papyrus in tiny ways. Maybe written areas had a different microscopic texture. Maybe the letters had left a physical ghost, a signal too subtle for the eye, but not too subtle for a trained model. So the machine was taught to look for what humans could not see. Not words at first, not sentences, only the possibility of ink. A faint pattern, a disturbance, a whisper in the carbon. And then the whisper became letters. One of the breakthrough moments came when an unopened Herculaneum scroll began to reveal actual Greek text. The first famous word read from an unopened scroll was connected to purple dye or purple clothing. That may sound small, almost disappointing if you were waiting for a lost prophecy, but it is not small at all. A single word proved that the inside of a sealed, burned Roman scroll could still be read. The locked tomb had a crack in it. Then came more. Passages appeared, lines of ancient Greek, discussions connected to Epicurean philosophy, pleasure, scarcity, desire, and the strange way human beings value things. The text did not explode with treasure maps or secret weapons. It did something more unsettling. It sounded human. It asked why we want what is rare, whether scarcity truly increases pleasure, whether abundance changes desire. These are not dead questions. They are modern questions wearing ancient ink. And that is why this story works so powerfully. The first recovered voices from the burned library do not feel like museum labels. They feel like thoughts that could still argue with us. Then another door opened. Researchers working with the Oxford Scroll generated the first image of the inside of one of the Herculaneum scrolls held at the Bodleian Libraries. This was not just a symbolic victory. It showed that the method could reach into a specific sealed manuscript and reveal columns of text hidden inside the carbon. And then came the moment that made the story even sharper. The title and author of a sealed scroll were identified. The work was connected to On Vices by the Epicurean philosopher Philodemus. That matters because Philodemus is not a random name pulled from the dust. He was an important philosopher whose works are strongly represented among the Herculaneum papyri. His voice has been returning in fragments for generations, but now a sealed scroll was giving up identity, structure, and context without being physically opened. That is not just reading. That is recognition. For 2,000 years, the scroll was a black object. Now it had a name. And once a dead object has a name, it becomes much harder to treat it as dead. Here is where the mystery becomes larger than one manuscript. If one scroll can reveal a word, and another can reveal columns, and another can reveal title and author, then the question changes. How many more are waiting? The Villa of the Papyri was never just a backdrop to disaster. It is the only surviving library from the classical world on this scale. Hundreds of scrolls and fragments were found there. Some have been opened, many have been damaged. Others remain sealed or only partly understood. And the villa itself may not be fully exhausted. There may still be buried areas, inaccessible rooms, or unknown materials waiting beneath the layers of Herculaneum. That does not mean we should invent fantasies. It does not mean there is definitely a lost gospel under the floor. It does not mean Aristotle, Caesar, or some forbidden Roman archive is guaranteed to be inside. But it does mean something almost as powerful. The archive is not closed, and for history, that is dangerous in the best possible way. because every new line from these scrolls has the power to shift the map. Not by destroying everything we know, but by filling in gaps we forgot were gaps. A new title can change a catalog. A new passage can change how scholars understand a philosopher. A new author could redraw a corner of ancient literature. A Latin text, if found in a strong enough form, could raise questions about what else Roman elites were reading in private. Sometimes history does not change through one shocking revelation. Sometimes it changes through missing pages coming home. Think about the human side of it. Someone once selected these scrolls. Someone paid for them, copied them, stored them, carried them into that villa. Someone walked past those shelves in sandals while sunlight crossed the floor from the Bay of Naples. Someone reached for a text about desire, vice, pleasure, or the disciplined life. Someone believed these ideas were worth preserving. Then the mountain woke up. The sky darkened. The air filled with ash. The world became heat, pressure, noise, and panic. The readers disappeared. The shelves disappeared. The villa disappeared. But the scrolls stayed. Not alive, not dead, waiting. If you had been one of the first people to see those black scrolls in the tunnels beneath Herculaneum, would you have believed they were books? Or would you have thrown them aside as burned debris? And if you were holding one today, would you risk opening it for the chance to read a lost voice? Or would you leave it sealed until technology becomes even better? That question is not just emotional. It is the ethical pressure behind the whole discovery. Knowledge wants speed. Preservation demands patience. Every scroll is a temptation. Every scan is a promise. Every physical intervention carries the shadow of damage. The past is not just asking to be read. It is asking how badly we want it. And America loves stories like this for a reason. Secret archives, lost libraries, ancient disasters, technology breaking into places the human hand cannot reach. But the strongest version of this story is not conspiracy. It is not that someone hid the truth from us. It is that reality built a lock so perfect that even honest scholars could not open it for centuries. The lock was fire. The key is light, mathematics, and machine learning. And the door is a burned scroll no one can safely unroll. That is the kind of mystery that does not need fake drama. The facts are already strange enough. The deeper fear is this: what if the history of civilization is not a finished book, but a damaged archive full of unread rooms? What if we built our idea of the ancient world from whatever happened to survive, while the best arguments, the strangest theories, the most personal voices, and the most dangerous ideas were sealed in places we stopped checking? The Herculaneum scrolls force us to admit something uncomfortable. We may not know the ancient world as well as we think. We know the version that survived, and survival is not the same as truth. A volcano chose what we could and could not read. Humidity chose, fire chose, war chose, neglect chose, luck chose. The canon of the ancient world was shaped not only by genius, but by accident. Now, for the first time, one of those accidents is being challenged. Not reversed completely, not solved overnight, but challenged. A burned Roman scroll that should have been silent forever is now producing words. A lost library under Vesuvius is no longer only a tragic symbol. It is becoming an active investigation. And each new fragment makes the silence around the remaining scrolls feel louder. Because the real treasure may not be gold, statues, or marble halls. The treasure may be a sentence. A sentence that changes the way we understand pleasure. A sentence that gives an unknown work its title. A sentence that brings back an author who has been nothing but a shadow. A sentence that proves a lost world still has unfinished business with us. So the final image is not the eruption. It is not lava, ash, or screaming streets. It is a modern laboratory, a burned scroll, a screen, a faint pattern slowly becoming letters. And somewhere inside that black cylinder, the ancient world is doing something no one expected. It is not staying buried. It is reading itself back into history. And maybe that is the most haunting part of all. Vesuvius did not only destroy a library, it preserved a locked conversation between the dead and the future. For 2,000 years, we were the ones who could not answer. Now the door is opening. And if this is only the beginning, then the next question is almost frightening. What else has been waiting in the dark, not because it was gone, but because we were not ready to see it? If you want to follow the next hidden door in history, stay with this channel. Because some ancient places do not hide books inside burned scrolls. They hide entire cities underground, carved into the earth like emergency exits from a forgotten disaster. And the question there is even darker. Why would a civilization build a world beneath the world?